Welcome everyone back to I Want to Teach English. I'm Jose Torres. And today I want to really talk about something specific, and that is purposeful listening. When I'm with a new group of students, especially newcomers, okay, and you can apply this to just about any level of group of English learners. But if you're working specifically with newcomers, which is what I focus a bulk of my work life on, you'll have to do a lot of listening. And when you're listening, especially in the first couple of days, the first phase, even the first class, what you're listening for is going to help you determine the trajectory of your lessons going forward. What are you listening for, and why are you listening for it? Okay. Now, I think, once you get past the whole alphabet and this letter sound associations and even vowels, as you're going through the whole vowel thing, you should also, at that juncture, that beginning phase juncture, start asking students to look over numbers. At least in my experience, seems like every group of students that I've worked with know what the number 1 is and the number 10 is, right? Now, working with numbers is a great way to reel in students, have them work with a symbol system that they are familiar with. Because in my experience, at least, most of the students that I've worked with are familiar with numbers. They just are, because the same number 7 in English is the same number 7 in Spanish and Portuguese, and on and on and on. It's just pronounced differently, right? So when you're looking at the numbers, okay, they're all gonna, if you have them repeat the numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. This is a really good model and repeat type of exercise where you're saying the numbers 0, 1, at a right pace, of course, and you slow it down. And as students are repeating them, you're listening for these things. You're listening specifically for how they're pronouncing what they're repeating, okay? And I know that at least for a number of students, certain groups of students, say, for example, like Spanish-speaking students, when they get to like the 3, they can't pronounce the TH that well. At least the newcomers can't. They have a difficult time pronouncing the number 3 because they have to do the TH digraph. It's just, it doesn't matter what group it is. If you're working with a group of newcomers, they're probably going to struggle with that digraph TH. So if you're listening and you're hearing that they're not saying 3, they're saying tree, right away, that should give you either a mental note, or at some point you stop and you write down, yeah, they were not able to pronounce the TH in the letter, in the number 3, excuse me. So I usually start the class with, a big number like 1,762,413 or something like that, right? And I'll put it on the board, and usually students won't be able to say that number, depending on their level. Of course, some students, if you're at a newcomer class where these people are just, fresh, new, trying to learn English, they don't really have that much English at all. If they're starting at level 1, they're probably gonna have a little issue trying to say the number, or whatever the millions is. It could be 22 million or whatever. The point is, and I'll always say, okay, and once we go through these, I'll put up like 27. Okay, I'll just write it on the board, 27. And the students have to say what that number is, because it's not one that we actually repeated. It's not one that I said and they repeat it. So they have to actually think about what the number is and make that combination. Of course, do that number, the 20 and then 7. And then so you go through that. You could do that however long this can take a long time to do. But the point is that eventually, you'll get to the hundreds, and then you'll get to the thousands, and then you'll get to the 10,000s, and then you'll get to the 100,000s, and eventually you'll work your way on up to the million. And then, you go back to that original number that you started with at the beginning that nobody could say, and then boom, right away, they're going to be able to say it. So this is the whole step-by-step, the scaffolding methods that really you can apply here with just this section here in the book, which is 3 and 3.1. It really depends on the level. If I designed this for newcomers for a reason, because you could have multi-level within the level 1 newcomer group. You could have a couple of students in that group that can really go all the way to maybe higher, and then you'll have some that they're just trying to navigate through this, and it doesn't matter. Even within those groups, you'll be able to do small group work, or you'll be able to pair them up, or you can just do it as a whole group activity, because sometimes students are shy and whatnot. And this should still be in the initial stages of your class. It's a good way to get everybody at ease, because everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's working on the same thing. They're all looking at these numbers and they're trying to figure it out, because it kind of feels like math in some ways. But that's okay, because you're challenging them. And at the same time, they're learning these numbers. And it's something that they could use. It's something that's practical. It's something that's not going to go to waste, And so they're getting these numbers. They're getting the pronunciation. But the whole time that they're doing these exercises, the whole time they do the repetition, you have to be listening very carefully to what they're saying, how they're pronouncing these words, how they're pronouncing these numbers, right? And that's the key. Okay, what are you listening for? And why are you listening for it? Okay, well, are you listening for it just because you want to make sure that they're actually saying the right number? Are you listening for it because it's a comprehension piece? Are you listening because you're trying to hear the nuances? Are you trying to hear what it is that they're having trouble pronouncing? Are they having pronunciation issues here with of course, digraphs? I think it's going to be a big one. But, there might be vowel issues that they're not being able to say correctly. They might be able to, if you just tweak it here, just tweak it there. You make those notes, whether they're mental notes or as you're going through the class, or at some point when you take a break or take a breather for a second, write it down. This is so important that what you're listening for, you can't expect to remember every little thing later on. It's important that the really crucial information you need to write down, so that you can come back later and reference it when you're planning for the next class. Okay, you're going to be able to fine tune these lessons and kind of tweak them so that they fit more the needs of your students. So numbers is a really good practical way to do this. I highly recommend it, and that's why it's really early in my textbook, because it's one thing that all the students are going to be able to really work together on, because they all know what these numbers are to some degree. Really, you can't make that many assumptions. That's why you have to listen carefully, because maybe some students, they had very little formal schooling where they're coming from, and so this is they're not as well versed in working with numbers as say other students are. So this is really going to give you a clearer picture of where they are in their schooling. And hopefully you'll be able to kind of maneuver through your lessons and get the right phonics pieces together. Because if students are having issues with this, and that's why it's a big part of the first part of this book. You look there's that QR code. You have those students that are having trouble pronouncing these numbers. Use that QR code off time. When they're out of class, when they're on break from work, or when they're at home, when they have time, when it's convenient. Hit that QR code, get to that video, audio, and listen and practice and listen and practice and listen and practice. You keep encouraging them to do that. That's the way to get them to improve, because they're going to have to put a little bit dedication into actually pronouncing these numbers, and you'll see it'll pay off in the long run. They'll come back. They'll be more confident about that. It's not a math class. You have to reassure them. And you're not gonna pound this all the time, but you do need to get through this initial part of the class. Anyway, so that was my piece on listening, being purposeful in what you're listening. What are you listening for? Why you're listening for? And just as long as you're cognizant of that as you're going through your lesson, you're gonna make these observations, and it's really important that you make those notes, so that down the road, as you're planning ahead for the next set of classes, you could kind of see the trajectory of where your classes are going to go, because, okay, well, we did this last night and here's what I saw. And yeah, we need to spend a little bit more time having these practicing this. And I'm going to, maybe you might want to create something for a specific student so that they can practice even more. And maybe in another video, I'll show you how to do that, what I do in those situations, because sometimes you will have students that are really struggling with certain parts of this, and rather than just keep repeating the exact same thing over and over again, I will tailor something specifically for those students and upload something to YouTube or some other platform so that they can practice. So it's not unusual for me to do that. I know that's a lot of work sometimes for people who are not necessarily tech savvy, but I encourage anyone to drop me a comment if you have a specific scenario that you'd like for me to look at. I would be more than happy to help you. Do me a favor, hit a like on this video if you enjoy this, if you like this information. Please share it with other teachers. If you haven't done so, subscribe and maybe share this channel with others. I'm going to be posting more videos like this because there's a lot more to go over. And if you have any questions, you could DM me, you could drop a comment. I'll try to address everyone as much as possible. And I appreciate your time. And until next time, God bless.